Whatever you search on YouTube to arrive at this video, if you're watching this, you probably heard about Dungeons and Dragons, and you're curious about it. Maybe you want to get a feel of what it is before you invest your precious time in it. Maybe a friend sent you here trying to make me hook you into the game. Or maybe you actually have already your first game lined up and you want to know what to expect. And there's many videos around the internet telling you how to play D&D, one of which you can find in this very channel. But few tell you what the game actually is. What do you do with it? How it feels? Well, welcome to Arcadian. If you ask me what D&D is, there's a short answer and a long answer. So to save your time, I'll start with the short one and hope that one left you curious enough to stick around for the long one. D&D is a tabletop game you play with your friends, you can't play it alone, in which you will experience an adventure like you had just been thrown into a movie like Lord of the Rings, or a fantasy version of Indiana Jones, or into a video game like The Witcher or Final Fantasy. There's no visuals like in movies or video games though, so everything comes to life through your imagination. Kinda like as if you were reading a book. The game is narrated to you, and it's up to your head to imagine what's happening, which is kinda cool because your mind can imagine things in much more epic ways than anything CGI could ever do. You will be playing with a character made by you, who you can customize to the smallest detail, and you will overcome many challenges, some of which will be RPG-like strategic battles, some others puzzles, and even role-playing encounters where you will interact with other characters in the game. And within all of this, you will be writing your own story in this awesome fantasy world, and in the end, not only will you have spent a very good time with your friends, but you'll also have a story to tell. You will feel like you played a video game, you read a book, you watched a movie, you did some theater, and you had fun with your friends all at the same time, which is kind of weird, but in the good way. And it will feel like you were there, like it was you having that adventure. Did this get you interested? If it did, you don't really need to watch the rest of the video, but just in case you want some more details, let me bring the long answer for you. So what is D&D? D&D, or Dungeons & Dragons, is a fantasy-themed tabletop RPG, and for those of you less familiar with the term, an RPG, or role-playing game, is a game where you play as a character and you play through their story as if you were them, making choices for them, battling as them, and in some cases even deciding what they say to other people. Think for example of The Witcher, of Assassin's Creed, of Uncharted. Even Pokemon is technically an RPG. And that's what you do in D&D. You take up the role of a character and you live through their adventure as if you were them. The difference here is the character is made by you, with infinite possibilities of customization in terms of physical appearance, skills, backstory, and even personality. You can create the character whose story you've always wanted to hear be told. In a way, it's kind of like you're asking for the book you've always wanted to read or the movie you always wanted to watch, told through your character's point of view. But you're not alone in this great adventure. D&D is played in a group, where the other players will make characters of their own that will play alongside yours, except one of the players who will take up the role of the Dungeon Master, or DM. They will be the ones to narrate what's happening in the world of the game, to describe what your characters are seeing, to act as all the enemies and NPCs, that's non-player characters, and ultimately be the judge of all events with uncertain outcomes and of rules adjudication. If you prefer to think in video game terms, the DM basically does everything the computer does. And more, because there's one major difference between a DM and a computer, which is also what I think is one of D&D's biggest advantages over video games. See, the DM is also the player who conducts the adventure and unfurls the narrative. Usually there is a plot or a guideline for this adventure, but there's also freedom for the players to do anything else they want, even if that wasn't planned by whoever wrote the adventure. And because this isn't a movie which absolutely needs to follow the script, and because there isn't a game code that the programmers built to prevent players from doing things that the game was not prepared to handle, you can choose to follow whatever direction in the story you like the most. You can challenge and change the plot of the adventure. Do the things the protagonist never does in the movies because they're too dumb or because the plot of the movie wouldn't work that way or whatever. And this is only possible because the DM is not a computer. They are a human, capable of improvisation. If the players want to do something that wasn't originally planned, the DM simply needs to consider what would be the logical thing to happen and then improvise. Keep the show rolling. This freedom in things you can do is also one of the things that I love the most about D&D. You can do, or at least try to do, basically anything that is reasonably plausible, even if that wasn't planned by the adventure designers. I always use this example, but imagine that you're playing a zombie video game. You walk through a doorway with a busted door, and you see like this big pile of crates that you could use to barricade the entrance and give yourself a night's sleep. But when you try to do that, when you try to move the actual crates, you find that they're not movable. They're part of the scenario, unmovable objects. Even if it was plausible that you could do that, the game does not allow for you to do that. But in D&D, you'd be able to do that because even if the DM didn't plan for the crates to be used in that way to barricade the doorway, they would only need to adapt that new solution the players came up with to the game and make them roll something. In fact, those crazy out-of-the-box solutions are some of the coolest things that happen in D&D. When just a while ago I said, at the end of the game, it will feel like you were there, like it was you having that adventure, I meant it. When you and your friends talk about the game, no one will say, remember when your character did this and my character did that. You will say, remember when we stole the relic of that fire temple, you were running from that abyssal fiend, and then I made that firestorm that made the whole bridge collapse. We almost died, but it was so cool. You were there. You did that. It wasn't a character from the movies. It wasn't a great pop culture icon. It felt like it was you. These are the kinds of experiences that are possible through D&D. And there's many more. I just can't really make justice to all of them and still make this video under 1 hour. To me, D&D is the perfect creative outlet. It takes you from adventure to adventure in this weird collaborative storytelling experience mixed with some theater and problem solving, which in the end will make you feel like you actually lived it. It's one of the most rewarding experiences I ever had. So, if all of this piqued your interest, I strongly encourage you to start playing. Find yourself a Dungeon Master friend or a local group who's willing to take a new player under their wing, learn how to play, and have fun. And if you can't find anyone to run the game for you, then that's the perfect opportunity to become a Dungeon Master yourself. Gather your friends around the game table and start forging your own adventure. That's how I started. The rulebooks may be intimidating, but I can assure you that the game is much easier to play and to run than it seems. And I'll leave my own videos teaching you how to play and how to run D&D in the eye up there or down below in the Underdark, just in case you prefer that way of learning over reading the actual books. You'll still need them at some point, but the D&D core books I think they are meant to be used more as reference books for you to search things as you need them, not as actual manuals on how to play. That's it, folks. I hope I made you want to play. I truly do. I really believe that it's an amazing experience you'll be missing out if you don't try it. But I'll let you be the judge of that. Try it, and then come here and tell me down below in the comments how did your first session went. I'm the first Arcadian, I'm a Portuguese dungeon master. I make videos about D&D and content like monsters and magic items and supplement rules and even campaigns all the time. So if you like this video, you know the drill. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, share the video with your D&D groups. I hate talking about these things because it makes me feel like I'm being annoying, but the channel is small and every like you can give me is a little bit of XP I can use to level up. I am also an artist and a comic book author, so I often share stuff like fantasy character art and battle maps. So walk by my social media pages so you can see what kind of D&D doodles I've been drawing recently. I hope this is the video that gets you playing D&D. In fact, if you have a friend who's interested in D&D but isn't quite sure, try send them this video. Maybe I can convince them. But there is a lot more to talk about D&D, and if you're eager to learn right away, then I have just the right video for you right up next. So I hope to see you at the next video.